Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews unboxing. Today we are looking at the latest releases for Necromunda. So first of all, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us these early to have a look at and review with you guys. Yeah, so if you're a fan of the channel, you'll know that I've been in love with the latest edition of Necromunda. We've seen all the various house of books detailing the various gangs of the Underhive, and now we're kind of moving into uncharted territory. We saw a range of books released at the kind of start of this edition, which covered things such as bounty hunters and the like. And yeah, we've got a new expansion, the Book of the Outcast, basically featuring all the various gangs that are outcasts from Necromunda itself, who are kind of outside of the system and struggling to make ends meet between. Alongside that, we've also got a new Underhive Market terrain set that is compatible with the Zone Mortalis range, and the Underhive Outcasts that can be used for pretty much hangers-on for any of your warbands, or you can use as part of a outcast gang, using the rules in the new book to construct your own warband, which is really cool. So we're going to have a look at all of these, have a look through the book. First of all though, what we'll do is have a look at the two new plastic sets and all the frames within. So first of all, let's have a look at the Underhive Market. Now, I've been a huge fan of the Zone Mortalis range. It's one of the best scenery ranges that Games Workshop have done, and it really captures the feeling of tight, claustrophobic Necromunda settings. It started life as a resin range of tiles from Forge World, but when the last kind of big box for Necromunda came out, we got plastic versions of it, and they've expanded it a few ways with the gang stronghold, and now the latest kind of range for it is this Underhive Market. So yeah, really interesting one. We've seen a lot of people kind of try and create their own kind of stores made out of storage containers and the like, but this finally lets you, with a plastic kit, make a little kind of market area within your hive. So yeah, looking at this, basically there's lots of little bits that can attach to the kind of the walls and columns for the Zone Mortalis, along with a lot of scatter stuff. A, for flavour, it will look really, really cool. B, there's a couple of scenarios in the Book of the Outcast that deal with kind of doing hits on rival markets and stuff, which is pretty cool. And C, it'll tie together with all the existing Zone Mortalis stuff to give us a nice flavourful environment to fight over. So yeah, let's open it up and see what we get inside. So we've got the instructions, so I'll look at those in a little section. And we get two identical frames. So these look really cool. Obviously we've got all the various covers and supports for the various bits of this. The set contains an awful lot of like flavourful little bits that I'm sure you'll be able to use in other scenery builds for 40k as well. Really, really cool looking. Now, as we see in the instructions in a little bit, this again is modular as well. So all the kind of like covered areas, while you can build them as a single piece that kind of juts out from a Zone Mortalis wall, you can actually build it as a freestanding one using two sets of frames. So it's one of those kits where getting a couple of sets of these will give you quite a bit of variety for your Necromunda games. You know, we've often had empty areas in the middle of boards between all the walls and columns, so this will allow you to put some kind of low cover, some different bits for flavour, and yeah, just capture the feeling of the Underhive. So yeah, really, really nice frames. If we have a look at the instructions, we'll see how all this goes together. So as you can see, you can build a small market store as a single piece, and that can go adjacent to a wall. And what we'll do at the end of the video, I'll have some assembled ones on a Zone Mortalis board to show you what all this looks like. But you can also build a kind of a larger one with a divider between them. So that would use both frames and allow you to have a freestanding area where you can have some little crates and stuff underneath as a little bit of a market stall. So what I'm probably going to do is pick up another box of these and have a mixture of the kind of freestanding ones that go adjacent to the walls, and then a couple of these in the middle. And what that will do is allow you to kind of block areas of empty terrain on your Zone Mortalis boards and have some things for people to manoeuvre through and some light cover. Again, adding a bit of variety to your Zone Mortalis layouts. For the large market stall, the same applies as well. So this is the kind of double length one, using this piece here. And again, you can have that as a single freestanding one that will go against a wall, or again, use two of the frames to make a larger one that will cover a kind of larger area on the battlefield. So that's a really cool thing. With all the Zone Mortalis stuff, they've put quite a lot of thought in how to, you know, add some variety to these kits and add some flavour. So yeah, I think it's probably definitely worth picking up two of these, just so you can get all those various combinations of. In addition, you get some gun racks with some little supports. The guns go on this bit of framing here, and that can lean on that. Alternatively, you can have storage crates leaning on that, and if you did that, I believe you can cut this and have it standing as a bit of a fenced area as well. So again, there's quite a bit of modularity. If you do have multiple kits, you can mix it up a little bit. So yeah, then you get a bit of a the clock thingy, and lots of little various bits of flavour. So mung vases for old school fans, mugs, power units, buckets, all sorts of stuff. Again, just to use a bit of scatter terrain. You know, they're probably too small to be used as, you know, actual cover in the game, but adds a bit of variety. And I'm sure a lot of people building armies on parade and stuff will love this kind of stuff to add a bit of flavour. The various little toolboxes and all sorts of stuff scattered between my kind of fixed Necromunda boards. So stuff like that's really good for adding a bit of flavour to the environment. The other new kit that's coming out alongside the Book of the Outcast is the Underhive Outcasts Gang. So again, another new kit for Necromunda. If you've seen these before, they tend to have duplicated sprues and variety of layouts. But looking at the front of the box, you do get quite a lot of variety in this one. Now, the cool thing with this is that you could use these to represent hive scum, hangers on for any gang in Necromunda, which is pretty cool. I think there's quite a bit of conversion fodder here as well for any other hangers on that you want to use, if you maybe don't want to use some of the Forge World models. Obviously for a kind of Outcast gang, this plus the existing Forge World range, and to be fair, the existing plastics range, gives you a load of variety for building up your Outcast gang, and that is something I'm absolutely going to be doing. As we'll see in the book when we get to that, it's very similar to the way Venator bounty hunter gangs were built, giving you a load of freedom in how you do it. So let's open this up and have a look inside. So we have got some bases, put them to one side, and the instructions. First of all, we get 3 identical sprues. Now a lot of the Necromunda stuff has been a duplication of 2 identical sprues. On these, which we'll have a look at now, essentially each sprue lets you build 4 different gangers, and there's a variety of different weapon options and head choices. So between, you know, all of the 3 frames, you're going to have a lot of variety for putting together your Outcasts. Again, really nice detail. There's some echoes of some of the other Necromunda bits, some echoes of Genestealer cultists. So I think with existing Citadel plastics, you'll be able to do an awful lot of kit bashing with these. Obviously we've got all those plastic upgrade frames out now for weapons, so that gives you a bit of variety as well when you get your hands on some black market goods. So really nice. So if we have a look at the instruction manual, we can see how this lot goes together. So as we can see, that is one kind of core body out of the box, and then you've got a variety of different weapon options that you can do to mix it up, along with different heads to give them a bit of a different silhouette. It doesn't actually show even all of the weapon options. There's quite a lot of options on here. So we've got, off the top of my head, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of weapons, maybe even 7. So obviously if you combine them in all the different combinations across all the different body types, you're going to have the potential to have quite a mixed looking force, which is cool. And yeah, all the usual kind of stuff. There's no special weapons on here really, because it just represents your standard kind of guys. For the Outcast in the book, as we'll see, you're probably going to want to use maybe either convert them up or use some of the bounty hunters and the like from the Forge World range to represent your leader and your champions and your specialists when you get them. But like I say, with all the different ranges available for Necromunda now, and the way Outcasts work, You know, you could easily have some Orlocks in here if you wanted, because they could just be disgraced Orlocks who have been kind of kicked out of the gang and forced to join this outcast tribe. And we also get randomly on the back a little stat card, so you can photocopy that and use that for your guys. I do hope that we get another set of printed ones of these, because they are really handy, especially for the outcasts where you've got a bit more customization going on. And here's a look at the contents of the box assembled. So as you can see, you really get enough scatter terrain to cover a single zone mortalis tile in the box, which is pretty nice. Obviously you could use this in conjunction with some of the walls and columns and the like. But yeah, they're really nice. So you get a couple of these. Like we saw in the instructions, you can put two of them together to make a bigger one. Same with the smaller ones. You get a lot of weapon racks and crates and buckets and clocks and all sorts of stuff. Also in here I've got a couple of the assembled gangers for the outcasts. Again, they look really, really nice. Looking forward to getting these guys painted. What I'll probably do is get some images up on the site once they are completed. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So as ace as the models are, the real star of the show is Book of the Outcast. So this is the latest expansion for Necromunda. We've been through all the House of books, giving us expanded lists for all the main houses of Necromunda, and this goes back into the kind of Book of series that we saw early on in this edition of the game. And essentially what this book is a way of building a Outcast warband for games of Necromunda, lore about the various flavours of Outcasts, and yeah, a full kind of campaign where you can play through a collection of different outcast gangs trying to build up territories within Necromunda. So yeah, really, really cool. So what we'll do, we'll have a flick through here and have a look what is inside. As ever, if you've seen any of the other House of or Book of series for Necromunda, a lot of this is going to be very familiar because it follows the same kind of format. We open up with a lore section that delves into what outcasts are and the various flavours that you've got. There's a bit of a blurred line between outlaws, outcasts, outlanders, where they sit in Necromundan society. The main kind of thing gelling these all together is the fact that these have been essentially banished, outcast. They are no longer part of that core Necromunda society and they live on the fringes. They are the scum of Necromunda. You could have, for example, I don't know, someone who's been exiled from one of the main houses and is now maybe doing some illegal work on the side. Equally, you could have somebody who's maybe unluckily crossed Lord Helmore and now is has sanctions against him and various police forces of the planet hunting them down. Equally, you could also have a band of weirds, so psychers who have maybe banded together to form their own little gang and eke out an existence of their own in Necromunda. So yeah, lots of different ideas, and this gives you quite a bit of fuel for creating your own outcast warbands. We see here a little mention of Cal Jericho and maybe having a outcast band, led by Cal. And this is something that you can do within the rules. We'll see in a little bit when we get to the gang construction. You can do some really, really fun stuff in the book. So once we've got through the lore, we then get the outcast gang army list, I guess, for want of a better word. Things are a little bit different in this than they are in most of the gangs in Necromunda. As usual, you take a leader. As usual, you've got a fixed number of champions you can take. So at the start of this, you can only have 2 when you create your gang. Once the campaign is up and running, for every 3 kind of gangers you can have a champion. They don't have any Juve equivalent. So all your kind of interesting characters are really going to be champions rather than a Juve who then picks up experience and develops into their own kind of character. Just due to the way this is built, this is all about your kind of tooled up characters with a load of cannon fodder, essentially. So yeah, pretty fun. You get quite a lot of freedom for equipment as well. As we'll see as we go on, depending on what you pick when you're creating your leader, you can unlock quite a few different lists of equipment and guns and stuff that you can take. So like we've seen with the Venator bounty hunter gangs, there's quite a lot of freedom in creating these. One thing that's a little bit different in a outlaw gang is that if the leader is killed, then it throws the entire gang into disarray. Essentially, you create a new gang at a value of 75% of the previous one that you had. You are free to use some of those existing members that you had, or create an entirely new gang. Essentially, this represents the leader getting taken down, the gang kind of dissolving as various people scuttle off into the darkness or try and fill that power vacuum and battle between them. So yeah, quite interesting. There's a lot of cool perks that you get for being a outcast gang, but one of the things you have to keep in mind is if your leader dies, then yeah, that's going to have a massive impact on your gang. And I quite like that from a narrative point as well. It's quite fun. So speaking of the leader, we get a profile in here for 125 credits, and this is done in a similar way to the Venator Bounty Hunter ones, where you get a range of different profiles, and you can select the profile that fits the kind of character that you're trying to build. Pretty cool. I like this. It means that you can use that whole range of Necromunda figures from Forge World or Games Workshop and develop a kind of background and stat line to represent who that person is. That's really cool. Now, they take it a couple of steps further in that you have to pick an affiliation for your leader and in turn the entire gang itself. And this is basically where they come from. This will impact who you can ally with, it'll impact what gear you've got, and a few other things. So essentially be clanless, that is your kind of default option. They are just a outcast gang out for themselves, no particular ties with them. However, due to that, they are distrusted and cannot form alliances with anybody. So yeah, that's your kind of generic one, but keep an eye on that one. If you do want to have any strong alliances with people, you're not going to be able to do it. Your next option is that you come from a clan house. So this is any of the major houses, so Delac, Escher, etc. Essentially, from a lore point of view, you came from that house, and as such you have access to all their equipment. For any rules purposes, you count as being from that house as well. So that's pretty cool. You could do a Goliath themed outcast gang if you wanted to. Again, allowing you to use a wide range of miniatures. Really, really cool. Equally, you can come from Merchant Guild, Criminal Organisation or Noble House, and each of those basically lets you build the background of where they've come from, so whether it's the Merchant Guilds, various criminal organisations or any of the named noble houses that we've seen in the series so far. And again, this gives you a similar kind of perk. You can only form alliances with the chosen guild, organisation, whatever, which limits obviously your alliances that you can have. However, as a benefit, you get access to any gear and weapons that organisation would have access to. So this is something where maybe your arbitrator might need to get involved with and decide what kind of weapons they would have. Obviously, by looking at the Forge World models, you can see what kind of gear that they've got and fit something around that. This book is very much... It's a very flavourful one, a very narrative one, but you definitely want to get your arbitrator involved to look over some of those rules, because there's a few things in here that, if you are power gaming, which really you shouldn't do for Necromunda, it's all about the story and the cinematic of it. There could be some potential issues where you go for a cookie cutter, super awesome build from a rules point of view, and that might be a little too powerful compared to some of the other gangs in the campaign. I think if you go in with the right kind of frame of mind and try and tell a story rather than to try and game the system, then you'll have a much better experience with this. So that's really cool. Now, that's one way of building your leader. Another option you've got is picking any of the delegations out of any of the previous house of books. So, for example, if you think that the Nautican siphoning delegation look really cool, or you really want a slaver entourage, this book gives you rules and credit values for taking that delegation, using the various models in there as your leader, your champions, your gangers. There's a credit value to pay for them. They will get experience and everything as per usual. And yeah, essentially it lets you use them as your warband. Any remaining credits that you've got, you can then spend on the standard champions and gangers from within this book. That is really, really cool and opens up so much potential for cool gangs. I already want to try and make a gang for each one of these things. Obviously with them being pointed as well, it gives that balance in there. Lots of options for models that you may, that kind of stuff you're not always going to be using in every game. The fact that this allows you to make a gang formed from them means that you can just rock up and have your awesome siphoning delegation themed gang and play some games with it, which is really, really ace. My only slight mark against this, we've got the credits in here, but the profiles, you do need the original House of book with those rules in. Handily, you've got paid references, so you can find them. But yeah, you are going to need those in order to get the actual stat lines for them and their equipment and all that kind of stuff. But that's really, really fun. And yeah, everyone out of every House of book is in here. There's a third option you've got as well when creating your leader. So if you don't want to use one of the delegations and you don't want to use the kind of stat line for the leader from the book, you can also use any named character out of Necromunda. Now this, again, caveat this one, you will want to check with your arbitrators to make sure that they're fine with it. But essentially, you could pick, for example, Lady Credo. You pay her credit value, you have her as your leader, you pick your archetype, which we'll have a look at in a little bit, and you pick your background, and then essentially they will act as your leader. They will gain experience like normal. They can get injured like normal. I'd have loved to have seen something like that for the Venator Bounty Hunters. They never really went that far. Obviously they had the alternative of having fixed stat lines for them. In this, basically you can use any Necromunda model as your leader and have the profile from that model as per the core rules and their equipment. Really, really, really ace. What you can even do is if you want to maybe convert up something, you can swap out the equipment they've got from available stuff from the trading post. I believe anything rarity 9 and below leaders can take, and it's just anything from the trading house, so that's really cool. So what you can do is pay additional credits and swap out some of the gear that they've got. Like I say, you're definitely going to want to get your arbitrator to just okay that to make sure that you've nothing too over the top and ridiculous, but I really like that idea and it gives you so much freedom for creating your gang. So yeah, really excited for that. The second part of your leader options are archetypes. So this is basically how you work out what skills each of those heroes has got. So you've got a choice of Brawler, Gunslinger, Survivor, Mastermind and Weird. And basically this just determines what skills they get. You pick something that fits what the model looks like, the background of the kind of character you're trying to build in your head, and yeah, you get those stats. If you go for a Weird, obviously you've got access to weird powers, and this book does have an expanded kind of 6 or 7 I think, laws of various psychic powers to expand on that. So really, really, really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing some really interesting and different gangs with this. We then get to the champion. He's 60 credits and works much the same way. You will get the kind of fixed stat line and then you pick an archetype for them of what, how they fight. Are they a brawler? Are they a gun shooter? And then you've got pretty much free reign to take anything with rarity 8 or lower from the trading post and gear them up. So again, similar to the Venator Bounty Hunters, what you're going to do is end up with a few geared up, awesome, probably expensive in credits, characters, and then a load of cannon fodder, which I think is how it should be for the Outcast. I think that's pretty fun. And then the Hive Scum themselves are your generic gangers. Like I say, they don't get a Juve option. These are 30 credits each. They've got a fairly basic assortment of stuff that they can take. A lot of this represented on the plastic kit that we saw earlier as well. When they get to specialist status, obviously you can give them some more different gear. Later on you can give them different stuff purchased from the black market as well. But when forming your gang, you've only got access to this stuff. So yeah, you can have a lot of cannon fodder on here armed with just basic stuff. It's all about those cool, tooled up characters that are basically the charismatic leaders that are ruling the gang. So really like that. Really different from a gang construction point of view. My favourite part of this is probably taking those different delegations. I'm definitely going to do a slaver guild and a water guild and put them together and paint the outcast to go with them. I think that'd be really, really fun. As we've seen in other Necromunda books, we've got an assortment of various hangers-on and named characters. A lot of this we have seen before. There is a new addition in the Underhive Trader. So this guy costs 50 credits, and essentially when you purchase him, you can pick one of 4 different backgrounds for him. So you can have a Relic Monger, which basically gives you a 1 in 6 chance of ignoring seriously injured or out of action. Pretty good. Beast Wrangler gives your exotic beast an extra 1 XP at the start of each campaign week. A Gunsmith allows you to upgrade a weapon at no extra cost. And a Connected Trader allows you to sell your stuff at double the value and trade items between different gangs, which is cool. Obviously all the parties have to agree, and you could do some underhanded stuff. Maybe a nice way of getting your hands on some rarer weaponry that you haven't got access to in your gang. So pretty fun. And again, like with a lot of stuff in this book, there's a lot of kind of notes to the arbitrator saying, look, what you could do is maybe create your own Underhive traders. So somebody who specialises in archaeotech, for example, an armour crafter who can do free repairs. Again, there's a lot of freedom for tweaking this stuff as you like to fit your campaign, which again, I think is quite fun from a narrative point of view. Other than that, a lot of the hangers-on is stuff that we've seen previously. They don't get a unique brute, unfortunately, just stuff we've seen before like the Ambot and the Ogrins. Now, in the box for the Gang Stronghold, we did get rules to represent it. Thankfully, they've been recreated in this book. So we've got the full rules for the Gang Stronghold, what the various parts of it do, and then we have got the full rules for the Underhive Market that we looked at earlier as well. So it's a strange book. First half's pretty much House of Outcasts, and the second half is more of a arbitrator resource with lots of cool information and gathered data together. Now I know some people will be a bit disappointed that some of this is reprinted and there's maybe less unique Outcast stuff compared to what we saw earlier, but as somebody running a game of Necromunda, I find this a really, really cool book for the stuff that you can use to spice up your games and add some interesting things. We then, as we said earlier, we get expanded weird powers, so we get 7 disciplines, each with 6 powers in, and essentially these let you, for anyone who is able to use psychic powers, gives them a lot more options compared to what they've got out of the base game. So again, all these books are very modular, and you can use as much or as little as you like in your games, and that's one of the cool things about Necromunda, because it is, with all these books verging on kind of RPG elements rather than just a war game. So I think it's fun that they've got these options in here. Obviously we get quite a lot of named characters. The cool stuff with these in this book is obviously you can use those as your leader as well if you want to, so that's really fun. The other main section in the book is the Outlander campaign. So this is a new campaign for your gamers of Necromunda, and essentially it represents a few gangs coming across some territory, maybe out on the outskirts, or maybe a disused part that they've stumbled across, and the various gangs have to build up their territories, build defences, build different structures, gather some resources in the first half of the campaign, and then in the second half they go to war against each other. So very much a kind of Fallout kind of vibe for it, where the first priority is gathering these resources and building these different structures and basically getting your settlement together before going to war with everybody else. So for the settlement we get a kind of a mechanic where we've got 3 different stats: defense, resources and toxicity, and those will essentially determine how good your settlement is. Each of those with pros and cons, and then you can build various structures and upgrades and stuff to get the best out of it. So really fun kind of sub-game within a campaign. So yeah, pretty cool. We go through the first 3 weeks where we're kind of developing it, building it, trying to get it together, a week of downtime, and then for the final half of the campaign we have the expansion phase, where basically everyone's trying to take the territories off each other and fight over it. So again, really, really fun. This is the full campaign pack, so we get all the experience costs, we get all the lasting injuries, all the ways you can get more skills. So If you haven't got one of the older books that's got a campaign in it, this allows you to play through this one in a self-contained campaign without really needing any other stuff from other books. But again, like with everything Necromunda, this is very modular and you can drop stuff in and out as you wish. Supporting this campaign, we also get a range of scenarios as well. Again, these are split between some that are more fitting towards the first half of the campaign, where you're kind of trying to build up these different buildings and get resources to keep your settlement going, and then stuff that's maybe a bit more aggressive where you're fighting over each other. Some really fun stuff here, like the Market Mayhem. Nobody can take any heavy weapons or weapons with strength of 5 or more, because the attackers are trying to just casually blend in with the crowd in this market so they don't get spotted, and the defenders obviously don't want to shoot up their own market. And I can just picture some slow motion gunfight as people are jumping from market stall to market stall, fighting out between themselves. So yeah, there's going to be some really fun thematic stuff. While the campaign's written from the point of view of various outcast gangs fighting over it, there's no reason why one of their houses or guilds or whoever is turning up for the campaign wouldn't be involved with it, because no doubt they would have their interests in that as well. So really like that. It's really fun. I'm looking forward to playing this, especially as I'm going to put together an outcast gang, multiple ones probably, based on the various options in the book. I think if you're a fan of just picking up those random models from Forge World, this one is going to appeal, because it does mean that you can use stuff like these guys as the core of your gang, which is really fun. Now, also for pre-order today, we have the Gang Tactics cards. As we've seen in all these recent books though, they are recreated within the book as a list as well. So if you do miss out on those cards, you are going to have access to them here as well, which is really fun. Lady Credo, 250 points. Absolutely need to build her. She's an awesome model. There's a really cool guy. Oh, I don't know where he is. He may be a bit further on. I think he's just called the Traveller or the Wanderer or something, and basically it's a mysterious guy with a kind of a hood, some old Palatine Enforcer armour, and he's a bit of a cowboy, gunslinger, Mandalorian style guy. Really hope we see a model for that, because it sounds really fun. We then get an updated trading post. So it's been a while since we've had a full one of these. I think the last one was in Gangs of the Underhive, so it's been a while. Now Games Workshop did say a while ago that this was going to be accessible for free on Warhammer Community as well. I don't know when that is. I assume that's still happening. It could well be today when this is up for pre-order that it is on there. But basically this gives up the updated kind of prices and rarities, and obviously we had a lot of stuff added to Necromunda since that original trading post was in place. So this is now the definitive up-to-date one. And again, from a compilation book point of view, gathering this all together in one place makes it much easier. And then, as we've seen in other books, we get a summary of all the weapons, summary of all the gear, armours, equipment, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really cool book. I know some people have been a little bit disappointed that maybe it contains less new stuff than some of the House of books. For an arbitrator, I think this is well worth picking up, because you've got so many things in here to add some spice and interesting mechanics to your games of Necromunda. Obviously, if you want to play an outcast gang as well, you're going to want to pick this up for the core kind of rules to them. Even if you don't use all the stuff in the book, it is going to give you some cool ideas for your games of Necromunda. I'd have liked to have seen the profiles for the various delegations in here. Again, just from a completion point of view, because if you are playing one of those delegations, you're going to have to bring this and the House of book that those rules are in to your games, which from carrying a small library around with your point of view isn't great, considering the House of books were quite self-contained. That's really the only kind of slight I've got against this book, though. It is really fun. I'm really excited to start converting up and trying some different gangs. So yeah, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us these Necromunda releases to review. Hope you've enjoyed that look at the kits and a look through the Book of the Outcast. I do also have a full write-up and companion piece
over on spruesandbrews.com, going through the book in a bit more detail, going into the ins and outs of creating your leader and all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in that, check out the website and hopefully enjoy it. So until next time, I hope you have a great weekend and we'll see you soon.